Guys, one of the best things about having taken on a bunch of high stakes crushers for the new Carrot Corner subscription service is actually getting to know them personally and being able to talk poker with them for hours on stream, like I did this morning. We had high stakes pro Alex. This is his graph. This is Alex. We had him on stream this morning. He reviewed a few of the hands that I'd played the day before in the 100 Russian Cash Challenge and gave me some feedback, told me what he thought. We discussed it a bit with the chat on the stream. It was a really fun session. Alex is an incredibly astute poker player, very articulate, smart guy, and I think you're going to love hearing from him again. So I'm thrilled to have him back on this YouTube channel as we gear up for this Carrot Corner subscription service launch. Let's get to the video. All right, so we have ace-10 of hearts. We open the cutoff. So we get called by button. When we get cold called here, guys, we're obviously against some, well, we're probably against some kind of rec player. This is GG 100. It comes from the challenge. So flop line. This is the first question we have to solve here, chat. What do you want to do? And then we'll go chat, Alex, me. We'll do it in that kind of order. So chat, what do you want to do here? Button versus cutoff. Top two pair against a likely fish.
So how confident are we that the button flat is like rec heavy in this pool?
Like 95%.
95% that it's a rec after you've seen this action? Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's not the way it is in my games, but I'll take your word for it here, yeah.
Yeah, most regs just, well, the thing is, right, there's a couple of different types of rec. So there's rec, because this is GG, there are rec players that actually play like close to a reg pre-flop, because GG has this grid of hands that you can set to play where it'll fold you out if you don't have that hand. So a lot of fish like select that so that they don't end up playing bad hands. That like keeps them disciplined or something. So sometimes you'll see somebody that's like 20-18 and you'll be like, oh, that's a reg, and then they'll call the button in this spot and proceed to just merge bet the flop with like, I don't know, nines when you check to them. So yeah, there's a lot of fish with reggy stats basically. Then there's a lot of fish with fishy stats, but I'd say this is highly likely to be recreational.
Yeah, fair enough. And at this rake structure, I'm sure that the regs are going to be overwhelmingly playing a 3-better fold strategy from the button facing an open. So
because it's simpler as well, right? They're kind of liking that. All right, so we have a lot of answers. Alex, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, against a rec, honestly, it's close. And like, yeah, versus a reg, I'm checking for sure, but against a recreational, I might just bet big. Expecting the rec to, like, the average rec is going to play a little bit more passively and stationy than they are going to be like stabbing wildly. So, but yeah, I mean, it is close. I don't agree with the person who said that you expect a reg to overstab this kind of a board. A rec to overstab this kind of a board. Recs show up here with hands that don't, love the flop stab. Maybe like 8-7 of hearts, or like pocket sevens, or maybe like queen 10 off or something. So
so my thoughts here would be most of the hands that we win a big pot from do bet flop more than they're meant to. So like ace-x, for example, I think if we go like compartments here, I think ace-x bets flop too often when check to compared to GTO. If this is a rec, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but that would be like one thought I'm having.
That's a possibility, yeah.
I think where we might lose a bit of EV by checking could be against like a 10 or something like that, but I think that will bet more often than it's meant to. In the rec pool, maybe not like lots, but more than it's meant to. So I guess I just feel like there will be some stupid auto stabs that are made here that a reg or GTO would never make, and I think an ace will bet most of the time, and I think check raise is probably my go-to here, to be honest. I think I just like to put more money in the pot out of position right away, and I think they'll bet too many of the hands that I win big pots against anyway. So I think I go for check raise here. That's what I guess I would do. I don't hate betting big though. I don't like betting small because I think it's going to be under raised, or just like not raised very often anyway. I think this is big bet or check raise for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I did I uncharitably shat on the person who said bet big or check raise, but I think like that is actually the two like good options here. Yeah. So
okay, so it does go check this time. Queen turn. Thoughts on turn, bet big. Yeah, I'm inclined to just agree with that. Like, this is now a spot where they're incredibly merged, where there's an inductive argument, Alex, that I use here, which goes something like, if they didn't stab flop with fours, they're probably not the type to stab with fours on turn most of the time. Therefore, I'm no longer going to like cater to that part of the game tree so much. I'm more going to... Basically, when they check back flop, the odds of them being passive increases, right? Compared to them betting flop. So now we bet big. And we try and put money in the pot. I don't think we go for a check raise now. There's just too many pair plus gutter hands calling but not betting. And I think it's a pretty clear bet big. I don't like checking anymore. I don't think this is a spot to check raise. Alex, any thoughts?
I agree with that. I also think your hand is just weaker now.
Yep.
Because villain's going to have king jack and jack nine at a decent amount of the time. Yeah.
There are these thresholds then where a hand has enough EV to bet big, but maybe it has enough EV that check raising isn't horrible, but it doesn't have enough EV that check raising is the optimal way to play anymore, basically.
On the flop, our hand was desperate to get stacks in.
Right.
Now our hand is not that at all.
It just wants to bet.
Against the recreational, it still might be like okay if he's on the wilder side to get stacks in. Probably still pretty good against a wilder recreational to get stacks in, but we're not like loving it anymore.
Yep. Wondering if pair plus draw or under pair may over aggress. Yeah, probably. I still think that there are tons of hands that call twice here that check back turn though, and I think that's just like the more dominant thought I'm having.
Yeah, I would agree.
4 of diamonds. Sizing, I guess, this has to be a bet. I don't think this is a spot to slow play, irrespective of blockers, and I don't even think unblocking the queen this is a slow play spot in GTO. But what would be the sizing here? I think this is a mandatory bet. At least pot. Yeah, I think pot's pretty good. Somewhere around pot feels good. Maybe over bet. I mean, I think king jack's going to over raise turn. For sure. As is jack 9. Like, they're meant to slow play a lot against the big turn bet in position. I don't think they're going to. So, I agree. I would like to see me bet. I don't know. Pot here seems good. Alex, what do you think?
Pot was my first thought. And our hand can, I think, afford to overbet. I think it if it bets pot and gets called, it hasn't quite reached its investment ceiling against what's more likely a more passive recreational, but that's okay. I think if we go over pot, that risks appearing a little more scary and sort of triggering like a fish flight mindset. So I think pot is going to be probably the best size in practice.
And if we do overbet, we're probably better off going like 18 rather than 15, because once we've triggered that mindset, we just want to maximize from that point onwards. So I think there are like sweet spots and cold spots here. Now, obviously, you could argue our hand is too weak for a giant overbet, but like I'd rather bet 16 than 15, let's just say that. If I overbet, which I don't think I will. Yeah, that's okay. I think I could go a tad bigger, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, this is good.
He rivers 2 pair, which
that
is
sucks.
Nice.
Could have got more.
Yeah. Get 3 bet there. Call.
Yep. Oh.
This one's actually kind of not very interesting, I don't think. I did my work. I finally found you. Oh god, I'm going to die soon, guys. It's been lovely knowing you.
Hopefully our villain bets like 14 big blinds.
So he checks. Oops, okay. I spoiled what I did. I bet this sizing.
Yeah, I would pure bet small. Oh, I just spoiled my opinion. Are we supposed to wait for like the chat to catch up?
We'll do it in the next street.
Okay.
So not much urgency at this SBR. Small bet causes the widest investment possible, which can, here's a point I really want to make. If you cause your opponent to continue really wide on this node, because it's getting, the pot's getting big and the fish is getting, this is a weaker player by the way, because the weaker player is getting like pot committed and emotional, it just really compounds and magnifies the amount of mistakes and the size of those mistakes you can see later. So just getting someone to the next node here like carries a lot of EV, I think. Just that alone.
What it's worth, I don't know if this is the most obvious thing in the world.
Okay, so I think it's quite obvious.
Yeah.
Because
what do you think about this?
Well, I agree with Lamb Stockbooks that he's probably under bluffing, but that's irrelevant because we make all of the money from an overpair anyway by calling. There's almost no way we don't stack an overpair in this texture when we call. And if he has a bluff, shutting that down is just so bad. Okay, there's some nodes where he has like jacks and an ace comes on the turn, and that's where we lose out in a little bit of EV. But I think the call is just way better here. I think in GTO, this is a very clear call. Like shove is just absolutely awful. Like it's hemorrhaging with a invincible hand. And yeah, there will be some people spewing I think this is a call, but I do see the point. I do agree that it's under bluff, but I think we just do so well anyway by calling against the value range here that we just don't need to shut down the air range, even if it's kind of small.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add that if we have any reads on the wreck and he's wild, call outcompetes shove very easily. But if he's tighter, then I think shoving actually probably is better.
But not by
And
as
the reason,
much.
but not by as much. I wonder. I think shoving is better by a lot if we're confident he's got an overpair. And the reason is because it's not just the overcards that are going to scare him out of investing all of his stack. It's also hands that complete straights that might do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like if like a 6 or 7 or an 8 comes, or like even maybe a 2 or a 3 against certain like recreationals, it could scare them a little bit. Though it's not mostly you're scared about like him having tens, jacks, and queens than like an ace or
Yeah,
a king
exactly.
hitting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
it is
think
a
the
lot of that
three
too. Yeah.
straight on this board is particularly scary. Like there are
Yeah.
boards I definitely jam here, um, but yeah, I think
Yeah, but this board is dry enough that under ordinary circumstances you are very pressured into calling here as opposed to reinvesting
yeah,
with the jam because equities are not running closer together. Yeah, his bluffs are stone dead. So
yep,
I am wary of rejamming whenever you're in a spot where your opponent's bluffs are stone dead.
yep.
But yeah, I can see the argument for it.
And there's also an
I'm not
argument
as
that
low on
like
jamming.
when he has king queen, which isn't super common, but it does exist, right? It's not like he never has king queen. This is an underbluff node from a rec, but it's still possible that a bluff does this, and you know the king comes. Sometimes he hits that king, and that's not as relevant probably as like the times it scares him with jacks, but it still pushes back slightly.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say is I didn't say that it's hemorrhaging in real life to jam, but in GTO, it's a big EV loss to fast play a hand like this in position at this SPR. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely. But so my approach against recreationals in these kinds of spots is that like when a recreational check raises you and you've got a really strong hand on like a board that could change,
Right.
your default is to three bet
I agree.
and often just to call in.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
so
super
this
board
this
dependent.
this board is I think kind of on the edge of like just dynamic enough that it's close between call and jam. If this were like a board with a flush draw, I would start favoring jam maybe by a little bit. It would
Yep,
still kind of be close. But if this were like maybe a little higher, a little more connected with a flush draw, it would be like jam very
for
easily.
sure. If this is like
Yeah.
Jack 10-6 or something, or like 10-9-6 two
Yeah.
tone, I'm definitely, and I have sixes, I'm definitely jamming. So I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
But
Yeah.
yeah, call I think is yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say call probably a little better, but yeah.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I've been convinced that like it's not as much of a big deal as I thought, but I'm very much in the call camp here just because when this is a bluff, it's a very aggro player generally,
Mhm.
and they're very likely to be going with it later. And the thing is, like, if they have the most likely overpairs for them to check raise here are probably kings and aces and queens. Like, I think jacks and tens are a bit more likely to bet, although they can check raise, of course, but it's less likely. So that's another argument I have. But when they have kings, let's say, just to pick like what I think is like one of the most common overpairs they have, I think that call just very, very often nets like a similar amount of money to jam. Now, I agree with everything you're saying, Sam. I just disagree with the conclusion that you're getting from it. But when they do have King Jack, when they are a maniac with King Jack, that's King Jack off, and it's like a lot of combos. When it's King Queen, it's a lot of combos. So even though there's very few recreationals that check raise flop with those hands ever, the ones that do exist are just so wide and so over bluffing and so likely to spew later that shutting it down is just too big a price to pay in my mind. So yeah, I definitely think call's better here. But I do feel
Yeah,
like
so a nice rule for the chat here. So rule 1, by default, your response in the spot actually isn't to call. The burden of proof is on the is to make an argument for calling, such as to point out the like dry nature of the board, how dead his bluffs are, and so on. Like when you've got the nuts, that is, versus a rec who's just check raised you. That's the scenario we're talking about. And then so I think yeah, there's a case to be made in this exact spot that you should call. But yeah, point number 2 is that when the highest card on the board is high, the argument for call becomes a lot stronger in general. Because those boards are going to tend much less dynamic. If this board were ace 5-4,
yeah,
then it's not possible for an overcard to roll off.
yeah, and then their value range is felting on almost all runouts, and then jam is horrible. Like jam actually becomes really bad, I think then. But on like 6-5-4, jam's just better.
Yeah.
And then like texture just really matters here. Queen 9. 2.5. Call. Multi-way.
Any player type
Fish.
reads here?
Probably
Both,
both fish. Maybe just
both
one is the
fish.
fish. Small blind is the fish. I don't know if big blind is. I
Hey,
don't
these are
remember.
nice games.
Oh man, this game is really good. Like the
Yeah.
rake is quite bad. And you have to pay like bad beat jackpot rake and shit like that. But yeah, sometimes you win a bad beat jackpot. Hasn't happened to me yet. And yeah, the fish are pretty bad, like for the most part. So that's why I'm trying to aim for a big win rate in this game, not just like, oh look, I won at 3BB, but I'm trying for like a big win rate in this game.
Yeah. Rake makes it hard though. But anyway, okay. All right, C bet or no C bet?
That's the question. I am usually in the camp of building the pot with potential implied odds hands against fish. So I would bet because I just like having bigger pots and it can never be bad. I would bet here, I think always, but I don't think it's clear that bet's like a lot better than check. Alex, do you have a preference? Do you care?
For some reason, I really feel pulled towards betting. And I would bet small. I'd bet 1/3 pot.
Yep.
I don't know if I have really good reasons for that. I think what you say is correct.
They might just be subconscious, like not really like putable into words.
Yeah. If you've been playing poker for a long time and you're like a winning player and stuff, like yeah, trusting your gut is a good thing to do. But I can't help you by just appealing to my gut. But yeah, I do want to bet here for some reason.
I had a dream last night that I was coaching a guy, and it's a really weird dream because like he was saying he was jaded with poker and he couldn't really be bothered with it and he couldn't get into the zone. And it turned out that like his problem was that he was making the soup, but he wasn't in the soup. So like he was then making like a chicken soup. And then, like I said, the reason you're jaded is that while you're making the soup, you're not in the soup, like swimming in it. And then we got him like inside the big cauldron of soup, and then he was like eating it while he was swimming in it. And then it was like, oh, then he was like inspired to play poker again. And I was like, man, I'm such a good coach. I'm so fucking inspired as a coach.
What on earth is going on here?
Yeah, it's such a fucked up dream. I just had it this morning, so it's quite fresh in my head. But yeah, he was like swimming and eating the chunks of potatoes and chicken and stuff, and he was like, man, this is so much better. I can't believe I didn't see this way to approach the game before. And I was like, yeah. Okay, so I bet this raise happened, and I don't think there's much to talk about here, honestly. Just get in the soup. Call.
Yeah.
The reason you don't want to 3-bet here is that you're reopening with a hand that can't stand reopening, and you don't even want to necessarily always play for 150 big blinds with this hand, even if it gets there. Although you might, depending on action sequence. This isn't a bad sizing, by the way, on this.
Yeah,
strangely. This is coincidental, but it's not a bad sizing.
Yeah, flush completes and then the like third pot with range after check raising. Classic.
How big is our hand? What's villain's range? How much equity do we have? How urgent is value? What's our investment ceiling? What play is better? Those are good questions. Here are bad questions. How does our ace-x of spades want to play here? What are our bluffs? What's he repping? What are we repping? These are bad questions.
What's he repping is an okay question. But yeah, the rest of them are terrible.
Yeah, okay.
What's he repping is like, at least that's kind of getting in the direction
what's
of a
his
relevant
range
question.
is better though, right? Like
right,
what's his
what's
fucking
his
range?
Right.
Just like what's he got, man? Like that's a better question.
Right. Poker's so nice and neat when you figure out what the relevant things are and you exclude all the irrelevant things.
Well, you know, it's a process, man, huh?
What's his range? What are our pot odds? How dynamic is the board? What's the SPR? Those are like, I don't know. That's like most of what you need to. Oh, how strong is our hand? That's
how strong is our hand's a very, very good question.
Yeah, that's a very
guys.
important one.
Don't stop asking that because you're thinking about advanced stuff. Like, please think about your hand.
Yeah. Those are like, I don't know. That's like most of what you need to. Oh, how strong is our hand? That's
how strong is our hand's a very, very good question.
Yeah, that's a very
guys.
important one.
Don't stop asking that because you're thinking about advanced stuff. Like, please think about your hand.
Yeah.
Right, anyway. The thing is, Zenith, the villain doesn't have any bluffs here, really. This is very mergy. Like, it's not impossible that he has ace deuce of hearts 1 in 800 times. But what you're actually going to see is a set, a straight, a worse flush, two pair, a king, a pair plus a draw. Not raising here is criminal in my mind against this merged of a range. Like, to me, it's actually a blasphemous offense. It's like some kind of like, if it was the 1500s, you'd be hanged in public and stoned kind of thing.
And yeah, just real quick, the reason for that is because there are so many factors pushing you in the direction of raise, including the fact that you have a hand with a really high investment ceiling because it's so strong, it's the second nuts. You want to get a lot more money in, and when you're facing a small bet, that's not happening very fast. And then factor two is also related to the fact that he's bet small. He has a pretty merged range that can be supported by this sizing. So against merged ranges, you're incentivized more to raise and get value. Whereas versus polarized ranges, you're incentivized to call and let them do their thing because you're either, far ahead or far behind, and his value is going to bet anyway. And then the only factor against raising is that you're in position, and therefore you can bet yourself on later streets if he checks, but that's not nearly relevant enough when we've got so much more money to make.
Yeah. So, Alex, what would you do? Chat's mainly given its opinion.
I'd go all in.
We went all in,
Yep.
and he did not call.
Yeah. Sorry,
So
that was a pretty easy all in. I had the action wrong in my memory for some reason.
I think the issue is, um, like we need to raise the turn. Like that's the point in that hand where a lot of you guys can improve. I think like river is pretty standard, but yeah, you've got to raise the turn there.
3 bet, nice. I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, like fuck this thing, like this stupid 2.5 crap from a weaker player. Like I'm just gonna fight it every time, attack it. Normally I just check this spot.
Yep. I'm checking 100%.
Yeah. I don't know why I did
Because
this. I remembered doing this, and I think I just didn't pay attention. I just like sort of had a blip here, but I would check this spot.
yeah, and what's the reason? Let's see if we have the same reason for
The
checking
reason
here.
is that while in GTO, both small bet and check are probably similar EV. Like there are way more misplays possible by villain if we check, and less misplays possible by us if we check.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, I would agree. Like tons of misplays possible if we check by villain. Not as many misplays possible if we bet with this hand. Because this hand isn't
Yeah,
strong enough to take full advantage of all the misplays, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zenith, for the sub. Appreciate it. So yeah, I think this is a check. I don't know why I bet here. I guess I thought I was against like a reg, but even then I'm not sold that I should bet, but it's closer.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if you have to.
I was
Anyway.
definitely missing the player type here though. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and Rex play the turn probe spot terribly, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's great
Yeah, I
to
should definitely
check
check
these
here.
things.
I should
Yep.
definitely check here. Yep. Little mistake. Okay. I should definitely check now. Okay. This is a wreck. Started without a full stack. Most people saying call.
Hmm.
Overwhelming call.
Okay.
Jam. This is a bit of a split decision, this one by chat. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I'm all in for sure.
Yeah, so I think our hand is like very strong here. I think our hand is like 80 something% equity because King Jack is pretty damn likely to raise. You have to remember that villain didn't raise the flop, right? So very often in a draw board like this, a rec player is going to raise pocket sixes or King Jack. So I think these are heavily discounted. And then what are we losing to here? 10-9, I guess, is the main thing we lose to, or like 8s or something like that, or 7s. Yeah, I just jammed. They didn't call. Yep, and remember that rec players, they're not as polar as they should be, right? So you're going to see people lead here with like King Queen, King 10, King 9. There's going to be a lot of their range. 6, 7. Yeah. It's bordering on the thin side, but I don't think it's anywhere near too thin.
Yeah, I would like it. All in is higher EV than call for sure versus this player type, and it is kind of thin.
What are your bluffs there? Alex, go.
What are my bluffs?
Good
Uh,
answer.
I don't fucking know. I don't
Good
care.
answer.
I
Good
have
answer.
a yeah.
Why are we thinking about that? You may as well just say, but how good are you at cycling? Like, fair enough, Pete, but how good are you at cycling? That's as relevant as what your bluffs there.
Maybe the guy's just interested in what you ought to bluff in this kind of
No,
spot.
we're gonna smash him. Yeah, no, it's as a completely unrelated point. I just want to make the point that it's really unrelated before I answer it.
Yes.
I don't think this is a good spot to bluff jam on against a rec player. I don't think it's a great spot. The risk reward feels really bad as a bluff here against a rec. Like, what are you risking? You're risking like 88 to win 46. You need 66% fold equity. Maybe you have that. Do you have that?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't know. But it doesn't strike me as like a hot spot, let's print money by bluffing spot, for sure.
No. All right. So he folded. We jammed. He folded.
Yeah.
Keep it up, guys. This is so valuable.
Yeah. This
Thanks,
is probably like
fine.
one of the weakest hands that I'm jamming. Pretty sure.
Carrot Corner, Pete speaking. How can I help? Uh-huh. High Stakes Alex, yeah, that's his name. The chap that was on the show today, yep. You like him more than you like me, right? You don't really want to see me make content anymore. You just want to see... Right, okay. No, we can arrange that. Yeah, there'll be more content from High Stakes Alex in the subscription service, which is launching really soon. Yeah, no, I understand fully. No, it's okay. Yeah, okay. Thanks for calling. Bye. See you in the next video.